The grand chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with the collective breath of 47 species, each representative suspended in their designated atmospheric pods. At the center, the Archon Prime, a crystalline being whose facets refracted light into hypnotic patterns, raised its appendage to signal the commencement of proceedings. The matter before this council, the Archon's voice resonated through quantum translators, concerns the newest species admitted to our collective, humanity. Jennifer Cross stood in the human delegation pod, her hands clasped behind her back in military precision. As Earth's chief diplomat, she had negotiated humanity's entry into the Galactic Council only 18 months prior. Beside her, Kevin Drake, her senior tactical advisor and former Special Operations Commander, monitored the biometric readings of every species present. His fingers danced across a holographic interface invisible to the other delegations. "Something's wrong," Kevin whispered, his jaw tight. "Their neural patterns are synchronized. This was rehearsed." Jennifer's eyes narrowed, but her expression remained neutral. 20 years in diplomatic service had taught her to expect betrayal, but the scale of what was unfolding made her pulse quicken. The Archon continued, "Humanity has proven adequate in the 17 months since acceptance. However, tradition dictates that all new species must demonstrate their commitment to galactic harmony." A holographic document materialized in the center of the chamber, its alien script automatically translating into every known language. Jennifer read the terms, and ice flooded her veins. "The tribute order," declared Volkar, the reptilian ambassador from the Saurian Dominion, his forked tongue tasting the air with satisfaction. "Every species has paid it. Now humanity must do the same." The terms were staggering. Earth would surrender 60% of its industrial output for the next 50 years. 30 million humans would be conscripted into the Council's labor forces. All human military vessels would be decommissioned. Earth's jump gates would be placed under Council control. Humanity would, in essence, become a subjugated species, free in name only. "This is extortion," Kevin growled, his hand instinctively moving toward where his sidearm would have been, had weapons been permitted in the chamber. "This is tradition," corrected S.H. Lara, the insectoid queen whose hive species had served the Council for millennia. Her compound eyes glittered with what might have been pity or contempt. "My people paid in sweat and chitin. The Volari paid in blood. The price of civilization is steep but necessary." Jennifer's mind raced through every diplomatic protocol, every precedent, every loophole. But the document was airtight. The Council had crafted this carefully, probably planning it since the moment humanity had been accepted. They had studied human history, the wars, the divisions, the tendency toward compliance when faced with overwhelming force. "You have 30 of your solar rotations to accept," the Archon stated. 30 days in your terminology. The vote will be called then." Kevin pulled up historical data on his personal display. "Every species voted to accept their own subjugation," he muttered. "Unanimous acceptance. They're expecting us to roll over like everyone else." Jennifer studied the faces or facial equivalents of the assembled species. Some appeared apologetic, others smug, but all seemed resigned to the inevitable outcome. They had all been broken. They had all complied, and they expected humanity to do the same. "May I address the Council?" Jennifer asked, her voice steady. The Archon's crystals rotated. "The tradition allows for a formal response only when the vote is called." Ambassador crossed. "You have 30 days to prepare humanity's acceptance." "Not acceptance," Jennifer corrected softly. "Response." The chamber stirred. It was the first time in 14,000 years that a species had implied anything other than acceptance was possible. For the next 29 days, the galaxy watched and waited. Human diplomatic channels were flooded with advice, warnings, and thinly veiled threats. The Council's military forces positioned themselves at strategic points around human space, not overtly aggressive but unmistakably present. On Earth, the response was volcanic. Protests erupted in every major city. World governments convened in emergency sessions. Some advocated for acceptance, arguing that survival required pragmatism. Others demanded resistance, regardless of the cost. Jennifer and Kevin worked around the clock in the orbital station that served as humanity's embassy to the stars. They analyzed every word of the tribute order, every precedent, every possible angle. "They've done this 46 times before," Kevin said, exhaustion evident in his voice. 46 species, and every single one capitulated. The Council's military is overwhelming. They have weapons that can crack planets. We've been in space for less than a century. They've been doing this for millennia. "There has to be something," Jennifer insisted, her eyes bloodshot from days without sleep. "Some precedent, some exception." "There isn't." Kevin pulled up the historical records again. Every species faced the same choice: submit or be destroyed. Every species chose submission. It's logical, it's survival. Jennifer stood at the viewport, staring at Earth below, blue and green and precious. 7 billion souls waiting for her decision. The weight of it was crushing. "What would you do?" she asked quietly. "If you were still in command, leading troops instead of advising diplomats?" Kevin was silent for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he laughed, a short, bitter sound. "I'd tell them to go to hell, and then I'd fight until there was nothing left to fight with." He shook his head. "But that's why they don't let people like me make these decisions anymore. That kind of thinking gets everyone killed." Jennifer turned to face him. "Does it?" On the 30th day, the Grand Chamber reconvened. Every species was present, their representatives watching the human delegation pod with a mixture of curiosity and pity. The Archon Prime's facets seemed to glow with anticipation. "Ambassador Jennifer Crossed," the Archon intoned, "humanity's response period has concluded. The Galactic Council now calls for your species' formal response to the tribute order. Do you accept the terms as presented?" The chamber fell silent. 46 species held their collective breath. Jennifer stepped forward, her spine straight, her face calm. Beside her, Kevin stood at attention, a small smile playing at the corner of his mouth. They had talked through the night, debated every option, considered every consequence. In the end, the decision had been surprisingly simple. "The human species," Jennifer said clearly, her voice carrying through every translator to every species present, "has reviewed the tribute order in its entirety. We have considered the precedents. We have weighed the consequences." She paused, and in that pause, empires held their breath. "Our response is no." The single word detonated like a supernova. The chamber erupted in chaos. Volkar lunged forward in his pod, scales bristling. S.H. Lara's hive mind fractured momentarily in shock. Even the Archon's crystalline structure flickered and dimmed. "Impossible," Volkar hissed. "No species has ever refused. You will be destroyed." "Perhaps," Jennifer acknowledged calmly, "but we will not be enslaved." The Archon's voice, for the first time in recorded history, wavered. You do not understand what you have done. Our fleets." "We'll find Earth defended," Kevin interrupted, stepping forward. "We've spent the last 30 days preparing, not for submission, for war." Jennifer continued, "We've studied your history, Council. Every species you've subjugated did so out of fear. But fear is only effective if death is worse than slavery. For humanity, it isn't." She gestured, and a holographic display appeared, showing Earth's orbital defenses powering up, showing human ships, newer, faster, armed with weaponry that made several council members recoil in shock, emerging from concealment. "We are not warriors by preference," Jennifer said softly, "but we are warriors by history. We have fought ourselves for millennia. We have perfected the art of defiance. And we have learned that some things are worth dying for." Kevin added, "Your weapons can crack planets. Ours can too. We've just never had reason to build them before. You gave us that reason." The Archon's light dimmed further. For 14,000 years, the tribute order had been the Council's method of ensuring that new species never grew strong enough to challenge the old order. And for 14,000 years, it had worked perfectly. Until now. "This is madness," S.H. Lara whispered. "You will all die." Jennifer smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Maybe, but here's what we've realized. You won't destroy us. Because if you do, you show every species in this chamber what happens to those who refuse. You show them that resistance, even futile resistance, is possible. You show them that slavery isn't inevitable." She leaned forward, "And some of them might start wondering, if humanity can say no, why can't we?" The chamber went absolutely silent. The Archon Prime understood immediately. The tribute order's power was not in its military enforcement, but in its psychological inevitability. For 14 millennia, every species had believed resistance was impossible. Humanity had shattered that belief with a single word. If the Council destroyed Earth, they would create martyrs. If they did nothing, they would appear weak. Either way, the foundation of their control had cracked. "We will adjourn," the Archon said finally, its voice hollow, "to reconsider." As the representatives filed out in shocked silence, Kevin turned to Jennifer. "You realize this might actually start a galactic war?" Jennifer nodded, watching Earth rotate peacefully below. "I know, but some words once spoken can't be taken back, and some words are worth the consequences." "No," Kevin repeated softly, savoring the sound. "One word, and the galaxy will never be the same." Jennifer smiled. "That's the thing about humanity. We've always been good at starting revolutions. Let's see if we're any good at finishing them." Far below, on Earth, 7 billion humans waited to see if their defiance would lead to liberation or annihilation. But in that moment, standing in that chamber, they were slaves to no one. And that, Jennifer thought, was worth everything.